Well, g'day, it's Big Al again. Ever since I was a kid, my parents always took us camping. First camping trip I ever went on with my parents was a simple tarp, a couple of poles, and we slept pretty much on the ground in a sleeping bag. And as a teenager, our weekends were spent down at Tullabudra Creek Caravan Park, playing, fishing, making new friends. And then as I got engaged and then married, we started to camp in our tent, and our children would all fit together in a small tent. And then eventually we ended up purchasing a soft floor camper trailer. And for 15 years we spent our holidays wherever we could go, setting up, taking sometimes 3 hours to set up camp, but we enjoyed every minute of it. Now the kids are all grown up and they come out camping with us occasionally, but most of the time it's just Rain and I going out and enjoying ourselves wherever we can set up camp. And after we finished off with the soft floor camper, we decided to buy ourselves a Jayco Swift Outback. And the reason we chose this model is because we didn't have much room at home to store it, so we thought, being such a compact size, we could store it easy at home, easy to tow. And we chose the Outback model because we enjoy getting off the bitumen and onto the soft stuff every now and then. If you're going to purchase a camper or camper trailer, it's an exciting time. And I know that when we purchased ours, we couldn't wait to get hold of it, and spent a lot of time looking on YouTube and on the internet about how people set up their Jayco Swifts. We just couldn't get enough, and we wanted to know how other people were setting up theirs and how their storage was and so on. So this video today is just a few tips on how we set up our camper trailer, and hopefully you can take some of these tips and apply it to your camper trailer or caravan. Some of them might be useless and you can discard those ones, but hopefully you get a few tips and tricks of how we set up our camper so you can enjoy getting out in the great outdoors, and just to make life a little bit easier, not like being underneath that tarp with 2 poles. So let's do a walkthrough and I'll give you a few of my tips on how I set up my camper trailer for a great time out camping. Tip number 1. There's nothing better than having a hot shower at the end of the day. And this is the setup that I've chosen for my camper, and it's working pretty well at the moment. We do have occasional glitches with the pump that I'm using at the moment, but that's going to be replaced pretty soon. But we've been using this system for around about 6 or 7 years now. Now first off, we've got a simple water trolley, and I've attached a water pump with an Anderson plug so that we can simply move it around to the tap, fill it up with water. If we have to, we'll go and fill it up from a creek, and that way we can attach it to our hot water system and just pump directly from the tank straight through the hot water system and have a nice hot shower. Here's another tip with using this type of system. A lot of times when you go to camping spots and you have to use either creek water, or you might have a tap next to a creek like here at Christmas Creek, you get a bit of debris coming through. So what I do is I use a filter to filter the water through into the water trolley, and then that way no debris is going to make its way through the pump and through the filters in the hot water system. Now I've also chosen a instant hot water system that hooks up to a gas bottle. And how this works is, and you've probably seen them before, as soon as pressure hits the hot water system, it ignites the gas and heats the water up. As part of our shower setup, what we've chosen to do is use a pop-up shower tent. There's nothing worse than standing in the mud while you're trying to have a shower. So what I've chosen here is a couple of plastic pallets. I've joined them together. They sit up pretty high so there's no splashing off the ground back onto your feet. To make it a little bit more comfortable, I've added a rubber mat that we stand on, and we found that this works quite well for us. The pallet is also a way that we can store things on the top of our camper, like the gas bottle and such, and we find that if you've cut most of the plastic components out from underneath one of the plastic pallets, it stacks up pretty easy on top of the camper, and we can add a few things into that small cavity. A great way to store a few things on the roof of the camper. Tip number 2. At the end of the day, you want to have something hot to eat. I enjoy using an open fire to cook with, as you might have seen in one of my other videos. But I've chosen a Ziegler and Brown Mini gas grill, just in case you might not have some dry firewood, or it's raining, so you've got somewhere dry. I use a steel table to sit it on. I find that the steel table is resistant to a lot of heat. I've seen some disasters in the past where people put burners and barbecues on plastic tables, and eventually they fall through, so I've chosen to use this old steel table. And to keep all of our food and beverages cold, I have a second fridge to complement the one inside the camper, a 95 litre Jayco, and I find that they're very efficient. They draw around about 6 amps of power, and with a good solar panel setup, you won't have any problems. Also, I enjoy cooking in a camp oven, and I also use a pressed steel camp oven. I used to have a cast iron one, but the very heavy, and when you're in a camper you really got to watch out for weight. So these days I use a pressed steel camp oven, and I find that it works just as well. Tip number 3. You're not always going to have the sunlight to generate power. So what I've done is I've purchased myself a small Honda generator. This is the EU10i. It's enough to hook up to the camper and to simply charge up the batteries. And inside the camper I do have a 2,500 watt inverter, so if I need some 240 volts I can use the inverter from the battery that's inside the camper. But there's just those times when you're not going to have any sunlight and you need that power, so this is my setup. I always try to keep things close to each other. So where I have my generator, I also have my lead, so if I do need to get to it, I know exactly where it is. It's a great setup for those times when you want to camp and it's raining, or there's not much sunlight and you just need a bit of a top up. For my next tip, in the scorching sun, and sometimes here in Australia we can get temperatures of up to 40 degrees, and it really pays a toll on everything to do with camping. Now, one of the items that I've actually had made up was a simple shade cloth with a bit of canvas on top, and I got a friend of mine to sew a sail track onto the canvas section so that I can pull it through a sail track at the top of the camper. Now what this does is it gives you a bit of shade for the side wall if you're getting the sun hitting it, and it also helps protect the fridge. Now, having this side with the sun belting down on it, your fridge is going to work twice as hard. So the best thing to do is to try and keep that cool. This cost me about $150 to have made up, but I think it's worth every penny because it's a great asset to the camper. And if you do have those weekends where it's raining, having the canvas at the top keeps that side of your camper dry. And in the winter months, when you have heavy dew, keeping the dew off the side walls just simply means that your camper is going to dry out quicker, so that when you do go to pack up, you don't have to wait as long. Well, for those times when you can cook outside, you need to have a good cooking area. Now, you don't have to be this elaborate. This is just simply things that I've collected over my time. And what I have here is a pressed steel camp oven. Of course, you need the old kettle there. I've got a simple setup where you have a barbecue plate and a grill section that simply just sits on a piece of steel that you hammer into the ground, we have our bio stove and our fire pit, and I use both of these for cooking. And once you finish cooking, the fire pit is fantastic to sit back, relax, have a beer and watch that open fire. I think it's better than watching telly. The reason I chose the fire pit is because there are some campgrounds where you can't have open fires. And using this, I've never had a problem. I've never found anyone complain about having this fire. It's not sitting on the ground. The fire is contained inside the mesh and you don't have any problem. Check out one of my other videos where I make a beautiful chicken soup and you'll see it in action. Having a great solar setup is something that every camper needs. To simply charge the batteries up inside the van. You can charge your phones off your batteries in the van, torches. I try and use everything that's rechargeable. Let's not put any more batteries into landfill. And this is the setup that I've chosen. It's two flexible solar panels on frames, and if you want to know how these are made, check out my other video on how to make up a solar panel setup. Very light, easy to store. You can move them around to follow the sun. And here we have 300 watts of power, enough for any campsite. No matter if it's raining or you're in the stinking hot sun, having shelter and shade is very important when you're camping. Now when you buy your Jayco Outback Swift, you'll find that you'll have the option of getting yourself a annex with with soft walls. But you have to realise that your annex is only the same length as the roof of your camper. So what I've done here is I've got a tarp, had a sail track sewed to the side. It's as long as the camper is, around 6 meters, sticks out around 3.5 meters and plenty of shade. And it doesn't take long to set up. You'll be able to see that when we set up the camper in our time warp video. So check that out. Well, here we are inside our Jayco Swift. When we first purchased the Swift, we've set it up on our driveway. We were so keen to try it out for the night. We decided to sleep on our new mattress, and we could only spend a few hours sleeping in there. The mattress was so hard and so uncomfortable that we simply had to go inside. It was just not comfortable at all. And the reason that the mattresses I find aren't comfortable is they have to be compact, so that when you close the camper down you can fit everything inside. And when the roof closes down, if your mattress is too thick, you can't get the roof down. So what we've done is we've bought a bamboo mattress topper to sit on top of the mattress, and we find that it's just as comfortable as the bed at home. Now for those of you who are purchasing your first Jayco Swift or Swan or Outback, well, this is what the Swift looks like. This is the end looking from the door. We have our Dometic fridge, our double bed at one end. It has a single bed at the other. We've got our sink with two taps. One of them is for hookup, so when you hook up to a water source you can simply just turn the tap and the water comes on. The other one is a pump system. I've disconnected the pump system and I've put an electric pump into the camper, and in another video I'll show you how that's done. We've got our seats, which are quite comfortable, and as you can see over in the corner, you can't go camping without a bottle of Jim Beam and a bottle of rum. And my wife collects teddy bears, so these are two of her favorite teddy bears to come camping. You have to make your camper your home, because hopefully you're going to be spending more time in it than at home. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Just a few of the tips and tricks that I've learned over the years to make camping more comfortable and convenient. Now we're inside the camper, just a couple more tips. Storage inside these campers is amazing. It's amazing how much stuff you can fit in here. But having it all sorted out is a great way to optimize the space that you use. And we looked everywhere for storage solutions, and we found IKEA is one of the best places you can go for any type of storage solutions you want. what we've done is we've picked up these small soft boxes, and we've found that having these as areas where you can store plates, cups. I have one that has all of my electrical equipment and leads and tools and such. It stops any damage of things moving around, and inside this one here we've got our steel cups and plates and saucers and such, and I find that these are a fantastic way to store items inside the cupboards. When you're off-road or when you're traveling along, you're getting a lot of movement inside the camper, and the last thing you want is to do damage to your camper, and I found that these soft, like a felt type box, is a great way to store everything inside the camper. Well, behind me you can see where the single bed is. We often don't use this one. We have occasionally. The table I'm sitting at can go down and as a bed as well, and we did have my 90-year-old grandfather stay with us for one night, and we found that this was great for him to sleep on. As one of the items you do get with your Jaycos are the fans, the one that's behind me here. It's a light and a fan, and in summer months they are fantastic. They're really worth having inside the camper for those hot nights. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've had an enjoyable walk around my Jayco Swift. Some of the tips and tricks to make things a lot more comfortable. Check out my other videos. Like I said earlier, check out my chicken soup video. It was absolutely amazing. Really enjoyed that. Check out how to make a solar panel for your camper, and I'll see you outdoors soon. Thank you.